All right, we are back at this. It's been about 6 months since I've been on here, since I've actually put videos out on here. And that's perfectly fine because, we're moving with spirit. This is not an everyday class. Sometimes it might be, but that's not what the goal is. The goal is for us to learn, to understand, though it costs you all you have, gain understanding. The beginning of wisdom is this: to get wisdom, right? Though it costs you all you have, get understanding. That's the goal. The goal is for us to understand our situation, get wisdom, pursue wisdom, seek after wisdom. The Proverbs talks about seek after wisdom like you seek after gold. Now, most people I know, they wake up every morning for some gold. Cash. It's not even gold, but it's the best they could go to. So a lot of people wake up every morning, they dedicate themselves 40, 50, 60 hours a week to the gold. I dedicate myself 40, 50, 60 hours, 128 hours a week to the, you feel what I'm saying, 160 something hours. However many hours are in a week, I dedicate that to the wisdom, right? Wisdom's a beautiful thing, and we got to get back to really loving and desiring wisdom, okay? Proverbs chapter 8 talks about our wisdom dwelt with God before the earth was created, before the waters were set in place. I dwelt with God. It's a beautiful chapter. It's my favorite chapter in Proverbs, actually, is Proverbs chapter 8, and it's speaking about wisdom and how wisdom was there when God created the heavens and the earth. It says our wisdom was already there. He created the world through me, right? Wisdom is identified, it's portrayed in the Bible as a she, almost as if her and God had a union. She said, I was at the right side of God, and I rejoiced in his presence. I rejoiced in his creation, and I call out to his creation because, see, wisdom saying I was there from the beginning. Wisdom saying I know what all there is to be known. I know what was in God's mind when he was creating the creation. Right? So that's what we're after. We're after that wisdom. We're after that knowledge. We're after that understanding. We are not out to attack white people. That's not what Keys is about at all. That's not. We're here to know our story. You're here to know your story. You're on your path. I'm on my path. That's why I haven't been on here in 6 months. I haven't been on here in 6 months because I've been on my spiritual path, and my spiritual path had me dealing with some internal battles or some internal warfare. And now I can come back on here and speak with y'all, right? So we're pursuing wisdom. We have to get back to that love for wisdom, especially as Christian people. And I say that because a lot of us, we got to a point where we're just comfortable and we're just complacent, and we don't really care to go to levels that we haven't been before. We don't care to get a level of knowledge that we haven't had before. We don't want to know what we don't know, because that's scary. That's actually really scary. I'm not in that state of mind. I am every day trying to get to a point of understanding deeper than I did the day before. I'm constantly trying to get to a point, and this isn't putting me on a pedestal. I'm saying this is the path of wisdom. This is the path of Christ. Christ was constantly seeking after wisdom, constantly spending time in prayer, meditation, alone, just so he can understand and be wise. And you see so many situations where it's example throughout the scriptures. No matter how you understand the scriptures and how you understand the Bible, right? We're still referencing so much from there. There's a lot of the reason why I say we can't be complacent anymore, and we can't be in the way that we used to be, or comfortable with what we already know, is because there's so much knowledge and wisdom that God is trying to get through to us, and because we're close to it, we just can't get there. That's why Christ said you can't get to the kingdom unless you humble like a child. And everybody knows the child is constantly constantly asking why. Why is the sky blue? Oh, because of the reflection of the moon and the sun and the way that the space is. And the child will look at you and say, but why? And you'll try to explain again, and the child will be like, but why? Like, that don't make sense to a child. If it don't make sense to a child, you haven't explained it real enough yet, right? So it's going to take a level of humility on all of our parts to seek to gain the wisdom that's out there. Another verse in Proverbs talks about how wisdom calls out to people. It calls out to people, but people who aren't looking for her miss her. They walk right by her. But wisdom has a passion, a love for us, because wisdom knows that God created us. Wisdom was there when God created, and wisdom's trying to bring us back to the original state that God wanted us in. It's a very beautiful scripture. The book of Enoch. A lot of people know about the book of Enoch. In the Ethiopian Bible, in the Apocrypha. The Ethiopian Bible has 81 books. I need to do a whole video on the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Bible has 81 books. The English Bible only has 66 books, right? The English, when they translated the version for a white culture, they did not feel the need to put all the books in there that they couldn't understand, right? There's all types of books in there, of Maccabees and Tobit and what's the other one? There's so many books in there that you can go look it up. Just go look up the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible book list, and you'll see all the 66 books you have, but you'll realize they have more. So for someone like myself, I don't want to be left out of anything that's going to get me closer to God. But if you don't move with that humility, you're going to have a mentality like, I'm already good. And one of the worst things we can do as Christians is to be in a mentality that we already have everything that we need. The worst mentality we can have is to say, I'm saved, so I'm good. And I used to teach in that type of way over a decade ago. So I feel responsible in a way to also speak and share what I'm continuing to learn to people. This is why I always speak. This is why I speak passionately about this, because I've taught this and from this religion and from this book for a while, and you always want to make sure you continue to better yourself, continue to move forward, and not get stuck. There's no getting stuck in Christianity. That's not the path. It's always moving forward. Draw near to God, He draws near to you. We get to a point where we drew near enough to be saved, to be a part of the group, but we didn't draw near enough to take our own path to the other levels, right? And that's what I'm working on. I'm never supposed to be looking like anybody else. I have my own fingerprint, right? I have my own DNA in me, different from everybody else in the whole entire world. So my path has to be different. I have my own barcode on me from God. You see what I'm saying? So we have to take back that mentality of this Christianity thing is your own path. You're on your own path. It doesn't matter if everybody in church don't understand. It don't matter if everybody in religion doesn't understand. It doesn't matter if everybody at your school don't understand. It doesn't matter if your own family is Christian and they don't understand. You are on your own path with the Spirit of God. And you have to follow that to truth. All right? So let's continue to seek wisdom. Continue to seek understanding. Let's not be afraid of, though it costs you all you have, gain understanding. And it might cost you who you thought you were. It might cost you what you used to believe. It might cost you how you used to think. It might cost all those things, but you have to go after wisdom. You have to go after knowledge. You have to go after understanding. And you cannot settle with what you already know. I used to work at James Stamps Theological Library at Azusa Pacific University. They had books you could check out. Any of the students could come in there and check it out, read it. They had books you couldn't check out. And then they had these rooms with these doors closed. And if you were just walking through the library, you wouldn't know nothing about these rooms. You would just think they were a locked door to an office. But when they unlocked the door, it was a whole bunch of books that was basically hidden secret knowledge. I mean, only like master level professors could go and get to these books. And I used to think, if this is a Christian library, a theology library, a Bible library, pretty much, why is there knowledge in here that only a certain level of people can read? I used to we weren't even, as workers, we weren't even allowed back in that room except to put the books away if we needed to, and I would read everything that came through there, everything that came through my hands. I would read that stuff, and I would think to myself, now why, if this is all one Christian religion, why is there a level of knowledge that it's locked, like you cannot read about it, you can't get to it? Why? I would sit in classes sometimes at college, and I say, why is this stuff that I'm learning at college, why is this not taught at an actual church? Why do you have to go and spend $30, $40, $50,000 a year to learn this stuff if it's a Christian religion and we all one? It shouldn't be based on how much money you have. You can go and get the knowledge. All right? So Christians, those of you, and I use the term Christian very loosely because I don't determine who's a Christian or not, but those who are seeking after God, I'll put it that way, those who are seeking to find their Creator, get closer to their Creator, and fulfill the purpose of their Creator, we have to keep going with this knowledge and understanding. We have to stand on what we know, and we can't get caught up in the rituals, the cycles of what's already known, right? 100 years ago, Christianity looked a certain way based on where they were at right then, and people had to step out of that mold and break it a little bit, right? Back in the day, there were certain views of Christianity that were, the actual bread and the blood is the actual bread and the blood, and then people were like, no, it's not the actual bread and blood, this is just symbolic and representative. There was a time where in the church they thought it was unbiblical to sing in different parts, to have the women sing one part and then the men come in and sing tenor, and then have the woman come in and sing soprano. They were like, that's not, we're supposed to all sing in one unison, and finally they broke out of that mode. There was a time in the Bible times where people felt like a prostitute couldn't be used by God, and then God used Rahab. People thought nothing good could come out of Nazareth, right? People thought a woman can't go stand before the king and save her people, and then Esther did it, right? I'm just talking about as the stories in the Bible go. We see that God kept looking for people who were ready to follow the path he had for them, as opposed to fitting in with the majority of the group, okay? And we need more Christians to go in this direction, where we're not trying to fit in with the group. That's never what we've been called to do. We've been called to be set apart. We were called to be set apart. Esther was called to be set apart. Daniel was called to be set apart. David was called to be set apart, right? These people that had a relationship with God in a close way, they were called to be set apart. They weren't called to be alike, all right? And we have to get back to that with wisdom and knowledge and understanding, okay? So let's keep seeking after it with humility and with full confidence that as we draw nearer, we're getting closer and closer to where we want to be at, all right? All right, blessings and peace to y'all. We'll be back on here.